Thank you very much, Sitka. As you probably noticed, we could, let's say, easily stay here for an entire day and learn about this really fascinating ways in which fashion has been reused. Now we have with us Anthony Corns from Ireland, from the Discovery Program. And Anthony is really an expert when it comes to 3D digitization, GIS for cultural heritage, and he will tell us a lot more about what was done in Ireland. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of the UNESCO World Heritage Site because I cannot, I'm sorry.
Okay. Thanks, Alex. Thank you very much for attending today and the opportunity to speak. So I'm going to kind of give one of the kind of case studies, which is archaeology. Can everybody hear? I'm going to give one of the case studies for Bóinne, which is a World Heritage Site in Ireland. And this is just one of two case studies for archaeology. So Alberto will be presenting it later on. And within the pilot, the two major objectives we wanted to achieve within this project was, first of all, improving the quality and number of 3D models. So we had some models within a previous project called 3D Icons, which we wanted to try and improve and reuse. And the second thing was 3 use cases for this archaeological data. So conservation, which is a more traditional use, the creative sector, and also tourism. So I'm going to kind of explore some of these kind of reuses in a minute. So if we just briefly look at the pipeline we have developed within this Discovery Program, we have this kind of high quality data capture and high poly modeling, but then we produce these low poly models, which are textured, but they have all these separate outputs from 3D printing to online 3D models to VR, all the way to kind of high resolution models for conservation. So it's about looking at this kind of chain and where can we improve quality to make sure that those outputs become more reusable within the different pilots. So one of the things we did was looking at these old data sets we had. So within the 3D Icons project back in 2013, 2014, we gathered a lot of 3D data from Neolithic, megalithic art from Bóinne. And what we wanted to do is, with the new technologies and new display technologies and new graphics, can we take this old data, reprocess it, and produce much better models for reuse? So you can see the old model and then the new model. So what we've done is develop a synthetic stone, which is a parametric texturing process, and combine that with the photogrammetry or photo imagery. So you get this kind of hyperreal texture now, which makes the object look better than it actually does in real life. So in terms of tourists, when they're experiencing these objects, it's much better. And these objects now are all being put within Europeana, and also Sketchfab is the platform we use. And then we also took this approach at reprocessing some of our old terrestrial laser scan data. So one of the challenges we had back then in 2013 was just the volume of data and trying to get meshes that kind of could deal with the billions of points. This was of the Newgrange World Heritage Site in Bóinne, and it's like a passage grave. You can see we had to break the model up back in 2013 into the internal passage and the external component. But now we've reprocessed that whole data set again. And then this is the kind of model we were able to get from it now. So it's a much higher mesh sizes, much better texturing. Again, it's all the development of parametric texturing. So this is where it looks at the geometry you have and it uses that geometry to render or generate a new texture. So all these textures here are completely fake. They're not from photograph based. They've been generated by the computer. So you can see outside on our desk, there's a kind of a fly-through model. So this is just within the Sketchfab model here. We also collected some additional new data. So there was bits of the site and other sites we kind of wanted to capture. And we wanted to try and improve this idea of capturing data in hard conditions, so low light conditions, so using lights with photogrammetry. And these are just some of the examples of some of the kind of new data we've kind of added as part of the project. So these are decorated orthostats in Newgrange. And then we also kind of neglected in the old 3D Icons project, there was no artifacts in there. And so the idea within this project was to try and take some of the artifacts in the National Museum and digitize them and actually bring them on site and vice versa, take the monuments back into the museum. So here you can see examples of some artifacts from Nouth, which has been documented. The other thing we did in terms of data improvement was the metadata improvement. So we've been using the Share 3D tool, which within the project. And the great benefits here for us in terms of metadata is we're able to link semantically to the Getty AAT in terms of concepts, but we're also able to kind of put that paradata information about the model. So how it's created, captured, processed is all maintained within the metadata. And that's in terms of reuse, there's several examples we kind of explored. So I won't mention too much about the inception because that'll be, Marco will be talking about that in a minute, but we've taken our model now and put this in the inception engine. So this is a HBIM online platform that allows us to kind of have a kind of semantically tagged 3D model which has intelligence. We also developed kind of high resolution outputs that the architects could use. So this is based on the new models. We've been able to slice them dynamically and produce kind of automatic ortho images that architects don't like using computers. They still like using paper-based output. So this improved the kind of reuse of the 3D data. We also experimented with the creative arts sector in terms of reuse of data. So examples here is say Roisin Fitzpatrick, who've taken some of the megalithic art and converted these into kind of crystal pictures, or she calls them crystal sculptures. And she did this for about 8 different pieces of artwork. And then also Otmar Hall from Germany. He took one of the models we did for the Glauberg prints in Germany and did a kind of a one-to-one scale 3D prints of these and put these around Frankfurt. We also worked with a student from Leeds Beckett University and looked at the idea within creative arts. Some of the challenges games designers have are reusing cultural heritage data because it's so complex and dense. They want like really low poly models. So we dealt with some of the challenges for them to reprocess the data. We also did a couple of experiments within the creative arts as well, within 3D printing. So taking 3D models, printed them out, but then looking at how we can transform them using analog materials, so mold, plaster casts. You can see examples outside. Then we kind of looked at doing this with chocolate as well. So we printed the molds out and we checked it was all food safe, and then we printed the chocolate. This is left over from Easter this year, so we started producing chocolates as well. And I guess it's looking at this idea of how can cultural heritage be used by other disciplines and other industries, you know, in an imaginative way. And then finally, within the tourism sector, we've reused, with the help of the WeaveX through ArcTour and Into, reusing the platform to take some of the 3D content and deliver it to the people on site. And I don't know if you've seen outside on the desk, but we have this kind of a virtual hologram. So it's where you take the 3D model, render it, and then project it off your phone onto this kind of upside down pyramid, and it gives you a perception of a kind of a hologram. And the final kind of experiment we did was tourism with visible disabilities. So just serendipitously, I was contacted by a surgeon from the Netherlands, an eye surgeon, and she was taking a load of visually impaired people over to Ireland on a cultural tour. And she was looking, because she used our models to kind of help them, the people, you know, virtually see the site with their fingertips. So we got a list of the sites they were going to and what models we had. So examples here were Glendalough, which is an early Christian site, and just the 3D model and the 3D prints. And what they had like an audio guide describing the site to them, who understood their disability, and they also had models given to them. So it was ranges from whole buildings to individual objects to individual panels. But they felt this was kind of amazing in terms of it made them understand the site much better. And we had to kind of think about things like, you know, printing scale and braille on the objects, or things having bases on, so they would know which side is up and down in terms of handling, and different material and tactile abilities. So thank you very much. I'll pass over to the next speaker.